Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Friday. Great to see everybody here today. How am I sounding? Thumbs up. Look good? Sound good? Somebody give me a thumbs up there. My friend Ben, look good there. Awesome. Good deal. Good deal. Great. So welcome, everybody. Great to see everybody here on a Friday. Hopefully all of us are staying warm. I know there is inclement weather coming across the United States right now. So hopefully everybody's kind of batten down the hatches, being safe. Um, Stay off the roads, make sure you have a lot of food, generators, anything you need for that. So please stay safe out there. And thank you all for attending today. It's great to see everybody on the Friday afternoon for some of us, morning for some of us, and possibly even evening for some of us. So it's great to see you here today. We're going to get kicked off here. Just basically, we'll go at it right now. So welcome, everybody. This is session 2 of our 7-part series this quarter, this month, and next month. We had a great session last week around DSPM for AI. My apologies. I did not get the recording sent out to everybody like I planned to. I was sick. So I went down with the flu basically right after our meeting. I woke up and I was sick Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Basically had the flu. Took some Tamiflu, got me going again, thankfully, for today. So I will get everything sent out today from last week, plus also this week as well. So the recordings will be sent out. A link to the recordings will be sent out for everybody to have at your disposal. And we are being recorded. So just FYI, if you want to be recorded, please hop off the phone call now. So just today, just we're going to be covering. So today is data loss prevention. My good friend Ben Perkins is on the call with us today. He's going to be leading our discussion. We're going to talk about DLP, where we at, where we were, where we're going, where it's at now. So a lot of great information today. Hope you're all excited to see that. Super hot topic, as you can imagine, with generative AI, Copilot, and the rest of them that are out there. We want to make sure our data is secure, especially in the healthcare, but across all of it, of course. Everybody has their crown jewels they want to protect to make sure that people are using generative AI and Copilot the correct way, and that we're not exposing information that we should not expose to generative AI. So that's really the intent for today. So we're going to talk about that 35 minutes, and then we'll have some Q&A at the end as well. Just a few more slides here to go to, and then I'll pass it off to Ben. Just a few rules of the road. Everybody's microphone is disabled currently. I'm going to enable it when we get to the Q&A session at the end. But if you do have questions, feel free to put them in chat. Myself will be monitoring the chat. We have a couple other people on the call as well who'll be looking at chat as well to help us answer questions as we go. So don't feel free to put them in there as we go. We'll get them answered as we can. If it's something we need to talk about, I'll save it till the end, and then we'll just kind of discuss it there so everybody can kind of hear what we're talking about. Of course, this will be recorded. Everybody will get a recording or a link to the recording sometime later today, once I get everything processed and loaded and the whole thing I have to do to actually do that. So you'll get it later today, plus last week's as well. And then there will be a short survey today. You'll get a little short survey, 4 questions, maybe 5. Take you exactly 2 minutes to answer it. Please fill it out if you can. It helps us kind of tailor these sessions. So a lot of the ideas that came from this particular session or this particular series came from the surveys from last series. We had a series of this again right before the holidays. We did this whole thing. Different topics, of course, some repeats. But a lot of the ideas that came from this one came from those surveys. So please fill out those surveys. We'd really appreciate it. It's really important to us. We want to make sure we're doing a good job. Plus, we want to make sure that you're getting the content that you want to see. Of course, just quick introductions. My name is Jay Cotton. I'm Principal Cloud Architect here at Microsoft. Been here 15 years. A lot of different hats I've worn. Security. I was a security engineer for a while, email engineer for a while, so quite a bit, and of course now generative AI as well. My good friend Ben's on the call. Ben, will you introduce yourself really quick?
Hey, I'm Ben Perkins, based out of Houston, Texas, and I've been focusing on Purview information protection and risk for the past several years. Been here at Microsoft for about 6.5 now. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. And my good friend Kevin Weaves, also part of the team here today. He'll be taking some questions in the back end. He'll also be presenting a session in 2 weeks, I think 2 weeks, around insider risk. So excited to see about that one as well. So great team here. Just to review, of course, we did DSPM for AI. That was last session. That was last week. Today is, of course, data loss prevention. Next week, we're going to be talking about Defender for Cloud Apps and AI applications. So super great topic as well. That is one that was highly requested from last sessions, and we're going to make sure we cover that off soon. This one, insider risk on February 6th. That's my friend Kevin. February 13th, we're going to be talking about network DLP. So that's one of the inline protections, one of the new features and functionalities that was announced around the fall last year. So we're going to be looking at how we can do protection of a DLP. That's a networking layer. And then also new for this series is going to be 2 sessions around agents. So the governance of agents. I work with generative AI all the time. I don't even know how many customers, 18 customers, something like that along those lines. And agents, of course, is the hottest topic out there right now. How do we govern agents? How do we put guardrails around agents? And we're going to cover 2 sessions. The first one is going to be on what we call declarative agents or SharePoint agents. They also call them Copilot Studio Lite agents. And then we're also going to talk about Copilot Studio and AI Foundry agents, and that's going to be on February 27th. My good friend Nick is going to host both of those sessions. They're great sessions. He has done those with my customers before, so definitely earmark those. If you have not registered for all these sessions, please do so. I'll drop the links in here that I'm going to talk about. Once Ben starts presenting, I'll put these links in the window, the chat window, so you can then go through and register for all the sessions. I do recommend registering for all the sessions. It gives you access to the recordings and everything else that you can then use later on down the line. So looking forward to that, and please register, like I said. Lots of exciting content coming up. A couple other small notes. We have another series going on, and this is around Copilot usage. So for those of you out there, this is kind of tailored towards healthcare, but it actually goes across the board if you ask me. These are Copilot Chat series. So Copilot Chat, remember, is the Copilot you get with your Office 365 licensing with no additional charges. It's not the paid version of Copilot, it's Copilot Chat. These are great sessions. I highly recommend them just for yourself or pass along to your teammates. They do a great job of going through what you can do with Copilot Chat because it's very powerful. And really, when you think about that Copilot journey, how we're thinking about things, Copilot paid license for everybody would be great, but not every organization can afford that. But we do want to give them the ability to use generative AI in a protected manner. So Copilot Chat is that particular technology that everybody has access to with Office 365 license. And it has all those same protections that we have in place. So the things that Ben's going to talk about DLP today also applies to Copilot Chat, the one that comes with your licensing, as well as the paid version. So it applies to all of those. So it's a great session just to come in, pass it around to your teammates, people that are interested in Copilot Chat. They do a great job of presenting those sessions. Lastly is we have one other piece I wanted to mention here. Everything that we talk about in these sessions, whether it's a DLP session, whether it is a session around insider risk or DSPM for AI, Microsoft has classes for all of these. That's something that Ben delivers, I deliver, we deliver these all the time to customers. And we come in, whether it's remote, on-site, depending up to you. There's hands-on labs usually involved with all of these as well, so you get practice actually using it and setting it up. We go through best practices of how to configure everything. So all of these are out there for you. Just talk to your Microsoft account representative, whoever that may be, and they can work on getting these aligned for you. If you don't know who your Microsoft account representative is, please email me, jay.cotton@microsoft.com, and I can help you find that out. I can help you navigate those waters. It's just kind of one of the things I do. I know a lot of people here at Microsoft, so I can help you pretty much in any industry you're in. So just remember, these are great sessions. These are fantastic that we do here, but you want something more in depth. You want some more live Q&A, longer sessions, focus on one specific topic. So most of these are 1 day long. So for instance, the data loss prevention, onboarding accelerator, it's a day-long class. So you get to interact with somebody like Ben or myself the entire day, ask your questions, go through POCs, bounce ideas off the wall. They're really great classes. So talk to your Microsoft account rep, and you'll be very happy with those classes. Pretty much everybody who's ever been through one of those classes has extremely good feedback about them. So just to be aware of that is an option for you. That all being said, I am going to turn this over to my good friend, Mr. Ben Perkins. He's going to talk to us about data loss prevention for copilots. And Ben, you have the floor, my friend.
All right. Thank you, Jay. So welcome everybody. I'm glad you are attending today to find out what's new with DLP for Copilot. So as of today, you may know that GA was announced for preventing processing of Copilot prompts when it comes to sensitive information types. So that's the newest item today. But I want to take you back through an overview for DLP when it comes to Copilot policy or even blocking maybe upload to generative AI, not on a cloud app side, not on an AI app side, but more through a browser scenario. So that's why I kind of added the endpoint piece in there, because I know that's a big concern for a lot of organizations right now. How do I prevent the egress of data in those various scenarios, especially when I don't want our data being used to train generative AI, right? So as far as your roles and permissions are concerned, you can hop on over to the Purview portal, and after we go through these 10 or so slides, we'll jump into the tenant and I'll show you where everything's at, right? So we'll see it on the slide, we'll talk about it, then we'll move over to the tenant and kind of go through the process there. So within the Purview portal, there are a few role groups that do have the DLP management or what have you, and I'll show you a couple other little tips and tricks for responding to some of these, like the content viewer needed to see AI prompts and responses within alerts and incidents. So, all right, Jay, on to the next slide. All right, next one up here. So DLP for Copilot is going to be part of your E5 feature or one of your appropriate add-ons. You see there's quite a list there as far as the licensing that you can leverage to use for Purview DLP. Pretty much rule of thumb is anything outside of Exchange, SharePoint, or OneDrive is going to be an E5 level for DLP or a compliance add-on equivalent. So just be aware of that when you're going to try to implement data loss prevention. Make sure you have the appropriate licensing for those targeted users in those policies. All right, next up, we've got the analytics. Make sure you get your analytics turned on, right? Analytics is a big part of seeing how the data is traversing your environment, right? It's where something like DSPM, which you discussed last week, can come in and see, okay, we're sharing these kind of classifiers, whether it's a tradable classifier, sensitive information type, maybe it's a custom classifier that you created or EDM, and you need to see who's sharing what, where it's located. Analytics helps you out with a lot of that information so that you could then have policies suggested for you that you could maybe go in and turn on and see what kind of telemetry you're going to collect from that policy if you need to prevent that loss of data. So analytics, both from a DLP and even I'm going to throw in an IRM standpoint, even though I don't want to steal too much of Kevin's thunder, is very good to get turned on so you can have that visibility into the data security and activity in your organization. So, all right. Next up is the onboarding of devices. Onboarding devices is an integral part of data loss prevention, especially on the endpoint. Think about once I download an item out of SharePoint or OneDrive to my work device, or maybe I'm taking an attachment out of an email that I received. Once it gets to that device, how can I tell what is happening with that file, especially if it's been stamped with sensitive information, right? So for instance, I download 10 files out of SharePoint, and then I need to maybe move that to USB so I can take it home. Am I allowed to do that, right? Or maybe I'm trying to print that out, or maybe I'm trying to upload it to a generative AI website to help me process that data and maybe put a report together or better understand that. So onboarding devices gives me the visibility beyond the purview, if you will, of the M365 workload. So it also is very important for other solution areas within Purview as well. Best way to onboard it, throw out MDE. We love MDE if you're using that as your primary EDR antivirus, but that is not a requirement. It can be in passive mode, so don't let that scare you off. Onboard your Purview clients and extend your visibility into your data activity. Next up here, protecting against data loss. Why do we got to protect against data loss? Because we have a lot of data that we are responsible for, right? We are the stewards of the sensitive data, if you will. So we've got, employee data, we've got patient data potentially, maybe you have financial data, maybe you've got all of that. Myself, I primarily am working in healthcare, so I do a lot with payer, provider, med tech, life sciences, all those different organizations to help them prevent the loss of, patient data, depending on if they're taking on intake forms and things like that. And there's many ways that that data can egress, so we have to set up policies. Today, we're going to focus mostly on Copilot and preventing Copilot processing data that we don't want processed, like maybe it's highly sensitive or restrictive. Maybe it's highly confidential. Maybe it's proprietary intellectual property, the meat and potatoes of why your company does something better than another company and keeps you competitive. And you don't want that getting out there and, that's saturating that information. So there's multiple ways that you may use Copilot, but outside of Copilot, we also protect our other workloads, our traditional, like I mentioned before, plus Teams and Endpoint, and it even extends beyond that. But again, we've got other sessions that are going to focus on other areas for data loss prevention, so I won't go too far into that. So next slide up. All right, Copilot today. So essentially how that works is Copilot has three main pieces to it, right? You have your orchestrator, you have your graph, and then you have your LLM, your large language model, right? So essentially what happens is when I enter in a prompt into Copilot, the graph and the orchestrator are going to ensure that policies are being followed as they've been configured within Purview. So essentially, if I tell the DLP policy, hey, don't process this label, if someone tries to leverage a document with a label on it and I said don't process it, then the graph will make sure that we're blocking the processing of that because that user from their context doesn't have permission to process it as they're licensed with M365 Copilot. So I have a lot of organizations that come to me and say, oh, no, it's going to expose all of our data. And then the truth of the matter is your data was already able to be exposed. Just at the end of the day, Copilot may have made it easier if appropriate oversharing and protections, permissions, and containerization of data have not already been thought about prior to Copilot implementation. So just keep that in mind. Copilot is not creating new risk. It's just kind of exposing existing risk, if you will, if that's what your concern is. So, but DLP for Copilot can help with those concerns, especially while you're getting things into place, making sure data is in the appropriate locations, containerizing data, and setting up access and permissions for guests and external identities and all that good stuff. So there's ways to kind of safe net it while you mature with your data protection strategy. So, all right, next slide. All right, so yeah, we've heard a lot from our customers. We have the customer connected community. So if you're not part of the CCP program, I believe is the acronym for it, that's a way to get in touch with product group, right? And I think we mentioned it on the last few calls and before, and it's you can give your feedback. You can test out some private preview features within your dev environment or your test tenant. Make sure that you're aware of the new features coming and how they work and how they'll apply to your environment when you're ready to move it to prod. So we hear back a lot of times about, hey, I need DLP to do this, or have we considered this potential gap in coverage? So keep giving us that feedback, and we'll keep trying to improve our product offerings for you to suit your needs. All right, so that's what we have. We have DLP to safeguard 365 Copilot and Copilot Chat prompts. So with that said, I think it's time to go demo, right? So I think that was the last slide, right, Jay? Oh, was there one? Yeah. Oh, there were a couple examples. Okay, so there were a couple examples, but I'm going to show you the examples within the tenant, so you'll be able to see it there.
Sounds good, Ben.
Oh. All right, so jumping in the tenant real quick, we are in the purview.microsoft.com tenant, as you can see here. With that said, I'm going to go to the settings area. We'll check out a couple of role groups and look at the permissions we need to configure DLP policy. I'll also show you a couple more permissions you may need to look at the actual content that was part of an incident or an alert. Just being an admin doesn't mean you have all the power, right? Just have the power to configure, for the most part. But diving down into the data, sometimes you need a little bit more, right? Or as they say in Cajun, a little lagniappe, if you will. So with that said, compliance admin, as you can see here, it's kind of the top level group. Compliance admin and org management, they have a lot of power within Purview. And you'll see that most of the roles are contained within the compliance admin role group. The biggest one for DLP efforts would be DLP compliance management, right? You also see that there's some other role groups here as well. In fact, they've snuck in a few. I was noticing the other day where you can actually go in and create some policy in some of our other solutions now and dive down and kind of investigate those policies that you created. So that's pretty cool that they expanded that for compliance admin. There's also the compliance data admin. So that's not going to have as much access as far as Purview solutions go, but it's still going to let you get your sensitivity labels, your DLP alerts, a little bit of retention going on there, and just basically focusing mostly on data compliance and security as far as that's concerned. Data lifecycle and information protection and loss prevention is mostly what this group is used for. Now, as far as looking at the content itself, there's a couple of role groups here. The Content Explorer Content Viewer. So this is very helpful, especially if you're looking for scenarios where's my data located, especially within my M365 workloads. Your Content Explorer or Data Explorer, which you can find in your solution areas like data loss prevention or information protection or insider risk management, you'll be able to see the Explorers, and you'll have Activity Explorer and Content and Data Explorer. Content and Data Explorer kind of do the same thing, but Data Explorer is the newer iteration. It's going to be where more of the feature enhancements are going to be improved upon as we move forward with Purview. But these two role groups right here help you actually dive down into the information that's in that Content Explorer. So if I need to see that email or that Word document, Content Viewer will help me out there. Another very useful role group to be a part of, especially for DLP with Copilot and activities that are audited because of those Copilot policies. Or even if I don't have policies, right? If I interact with AI and there's sensitive information, I can surface that too because it's audited, right? So to be able to see what that prompt and response was, we have the AI Content Viewer. So the Data Security AI Content Viewer will help you see that prompt and response within that alert or that incident that you're looking in from DLP within the Defender portal, right? Which is going to be your most robust area kind of to do your triage and investigation into DLP. You can see some items in Activity Explorer from Purview or some of the alerting within DLP, but the best area still is to go to Defender portal, look at incidents and alerts over there for DLP, and that'll give you a little more contextual information and sourcing and location and all that good stuff. All right. With that said, that's your role groups. We also spoke about device onboarding. Onboarding, Copilot's already onboarded, right? If I'm licensed it, Copilot is contained within the cloud. Prompts and responses are stored in my mailbox, et cetera, et cetera. But onboarding for, browser egress to generative AI websites is important. It's also important for other solution areas like insider risk management, getting the telemetry there. I'm sure Kevin will speak on that pretty thoroughly during his insider risk management presentation. So when you come over here, you can download for Windows or Mac, as you see here, and then there's multiple ways for onboarding. Again, I say the easiest way is to deploy MDE, right? And that'll get that Purview client deployed for you, and then you'll be able to see your devices that are onboarded in the devices section. And one more thing to cover while we're in settings is the data loss prevention solution settings area, right? So in here, that's where you go and you turn on your analytics. Give it a second when you click on it. Sometimes it doesn't show that that's been toggled on. So just make sure that you're not, fighting with it. Turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, So that can happen, right? You're trying to move and get things done. So some of the other items you may see here, just-in-time protection is good for, if I'm dragging data across from like a network share and I want it to scan that data before it egresses because maybe it didn't hit the endpoint and get time to scan by the Purview client because I'm just dragging it from one repo to a point of egress. So just-in-time protection is great for that endpoint, for that browser activity that you want to detect. And then, of course, endpoint DLP is another area where you can come in and get that set up for your supported browser domain restrictions, right? So what browsers are we not allowed to egress sensitive data to regardless, right? This isn't a firewall or anything like that. This is just when it comes to DLP on the endpoint, what browsers can we use to egress sensitive data? So these are my unallowed browsers. Then, of course, for Chrome and Firefox, we need the Purview extension, so make sure you get that deployed if you're allowing for Chrome and Firefox from your endpoint management, and you're going to allow sensitive data to be uploaded via that browser. Also, we add this generative AI websites, and we keep that updated and populated for you. This can be used in an endpoint DLP policy so that you can have specific Maybe you're auditing, maybe you're blocking with override, maybe you're allowing it for some reason. So generative AI websites, just a grouping of the AI websites that are out there. I think there's over 350 listed. I read somewhere that are in the generative AI website group, so that we can have a good visibility on where folks are maybe trying to leverage AI to help improve their productivity on a day-to-day basis. As far as DLP for Copilot and generative AI, I think that's about it for browser upload. So I'm going to hop from the settings and then just pop over here into the DSPM. The reason I'm going to touch on this real quick is because I know DSPM was covered last week, and I just wanted to point out that when there's recommendations under tasks and actions within DSPM, generally that's telling you that, hey, you want to protect your data here, or you want to detect this kind of activity that may be going on. For the most part, when you create that policy, it's going to create it within a solution area within Purview. So that might be insider risk management, it may be communication compliance, it might be data loss prevention, it might be enabling adaptive protection, maybe within data lifecycle management for retention. Whatever the case may be, it's recommending actions so that you can protect your data using the Purview solutions that you're already paying for. So just realize that when I click that and say detect risky interactions, for instance, that's going to go over to insider risk management. Or if I'm protecting data from browser upload, that's going to create a policy in data loss prevention, right? Which brings us over here. So there are some policies that I did create, and it does now put it in audit mode, so it's not going to start blocking or anything crazy like that. We're gonna start getting a bunch of help desk tickets, but definitely verify. Once you hit go to your solution, make sure, because it's going to turn it on, jump in there, make sure your action is in the audit mode, right? So that you can collect that telemetry before start lighting up and help desk tickets because somebody can't do what they were trying to do, right? All right. So with that said, let's do a policy creation. I'm going to kind of walk through policy creation. Then I'm going to show you one of my policies I've set up, and then I'm going to show you an example of how it works. And then I think we'll go back to Jay for question and answer. So the network DLP that's going to be covered for Purview, that's coming up. That's what this box is for. That's going to give you your ability to block egress of data to generative AI, third-party web storage, all that good stuff. So don't miss that session. This is going to be where we're going to kind of hone in on here today, as we're going to look at our typical connected sources for M365. Because it's Copilot, I can't use a template with it, so I'm going to go custom. That way that'll allow me to select Copilot as the location I'd like to protect. I'm going to put a 2 here or a 1 because I think I already have something, or it says I have something called custom policy already, usually. So let me go ahead and click on that. Admin units are a great way to break up your responsibilities, especially if you have different regulatory requirements as far as data protection is concerned. Even though I have some global customers, I don't have any that are really using admin units yet. But I've had a couple talk about maybe using admin units. Another pro tip here. So when I go custom, instead of going through and unchecking all these boxes, I can simply click that and it unchecks it for me. Or even if I didn't want to do Copilot, then it reduces my clicks and I can do that. See? So pretty cool there. I don't know why we start with all of them checked, because best practice, I would not add every single workload to a DLP policy. I wouldn't do it. But for whatever reason, they're checked when we start off. So that's an easy way to uncheck them all with less clicks. So Copilot and Copilot Chat is where we're going to look at rule creation here. So let's just say blocking a label, and I was going to make sure that I spelled blocking. It didn't look right at first. So content contained. So the new item for DLP for Copilot is the sensitive information types. Those went GA, I want to say, towards the end of December, while everybody was on holiday, right? We said, hey, we're going to let you block sensitive information types because maybe you're not quite ready to do auto labeling and you're not sure about your data types and that yet. So if we can get some sensitive information types, we can get those blocked, right? With that said, there may be different scenarios where you'll call out multiple information types, but I will caution you on this, and that's just because Copilot is at its best when the information I have access to my Copilot has access to, right? That creates the most comprehensive and productive output of data. Now, understanding there's a transitional period sometimes, and then there's just some data that, as an organization, I don't care if you have access to it or not. I don't want Copilot processing it and putting it into a report or something that you're going to present or whatever the case may be. I just don't want that data in there, and that's fine too. But I would say be very cautious before you go in here and add 50 different set types, because you don't want to allow for Copilot to process that from the context of what that user has visibility into. Okay, but it is a capability, so I just wanted to point that out. So if you wanted to come in here and maybe add some of your custom sensitive information types, or you wanted to add in some EDM. Let's say this is EDM or custom. Let Mark 8 project. Maybe that's highly confidential, super restrictive access, and I don't care who has access, and I don't care. And if it's accidentally exposed, I definitely don't want it coming back in a response. So I'm going to add that in and make sure that that's not going to get processed. I'm going to go with a medium confidence level there as far as that's concerned. And then the instance count, that'll just vary, right? If it's one piece of information, sometimes, it depends on what your compliance or your legal department tells you. Yeah, sometimes it's okay if we egress this little bit amount of data to these approved domains that we can send to. But if we do 50 or if we do more than that, then that's not okay, or we need to block with override, whatever the case may be. I've seen tons of different scenarios, even in healthcare, across the states. Everyone does it differently. Internationally, folks do it differently. Instance counts can vary, and types of data they're trying to protect can vary on a whole, right? So, all right, so that's what I would set up. And then all I would do is go down here and say restrict Copilot from processing prompts. So basically, if I throw that Mark 8 project in there and I hit save, and then I turn this policy on, then when I try to put in a prompt to inquire about Mark 8 project information where the content has been stamped with that sensitive information type, then it will block the processing of that, and it'll let me know too, like, hey, your organization doesn't allow the processing of this content, right? Another option here is sensitivity labels, right? So I can take that out, I can add a label, and then I can go in and say, all right, let's say my project Obsidian is a super secret project. Maybe we're working on time travel with Project Obsidian. I don't know, maybe, and I don't want that getting out no matter what, no matter who's got access to it. So if I'm prompting Copilot and I'm asking about maybe Back to the Future movies, or I want to do a comparative analysis across different time travel theories. I don't know. We'll go with the time travel theme. And then it pulls from my Project Obsidian, which is my organization actually working on time travel and space-time continuum and all that good stuff, right? And I don't want that returned to that prompt just because they were looking at an entertainment industry's theory on time travel, maybe on their lunch break. I don't know. So that might be a reason I would say, Copilot, let's block the accessing of that knowledge source, right? So you see that it's a couple of different ones. So this one's not blocking at the prompt, it's blocking from accessing items that are labeled with this particular label, whereas the sit one was blocking the processing of that sit when I place it in the prompt. So that's kind of the two differences there. And before I show you the example, I'm going to do a quick time check for myself. Okay, cool. Before I show you an example, I'm going to show you an endpoint DLP generative AI browser policy. Then I will show you an example of how it works, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. How about that? All right. Well, you can't talk right now, so you can't tell me no. Ha. So, all right. So going back, I'm going to jump back into the policy, and I'm going to go back into Enterprise Apps and Devices because I'm actually going to create a policy for endpoint. So I like to go custom. A lot of folks like to use the templates. There's HIPAA template, there's a PII template, there's Sarbanes-Oxley. There's all kinds of templates in there to protect certain types of data out of the box as you mature your information protection capability, right? So let's move forward with the endpoint and do a browser block, or let's call it a browser policy. We don't necessarily have to block it. Again, I'm going to use my cheat. I'm going to click that. I'm going to unclick it and select devices. There we go. Easy peasy. So block, let's call it block upload to Gen AI. All right. So add conditions, content contains. I have a a few options here: sit types, sensitivity labels, or trainable classifiers. I'm going to use labels. Let's keep it simple. Let's go with our time travel theme here, and we're adding Project Obsidian. I definitely don't want my Project Obsidian time travel notes and research leaking out to ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, DeepSeek, any of those other places where, their AI could get a hold of it. And now they're working on time travel, and now everyone's going to be messing up the space-time continuum, creating rifts. Folks might start disappearing. I don't even know. I don't even know what's going to happen. So to prevent that catastrophic outcome, we want to make sure that we're blocking that from going to those generative AI websites. So with that, I'm going to add in here that we're going to restrict activities when users access sensitive sites. Sorry, I did the wrong one. All right, we're going to have to edit this. So audit restricted activities on the devices. Okay, so I meant to go into here. So this is going to be our upload to a restricted cloud service domain or access from an unallowed browser. Now I'm going to come back to my settings here. So you can see, here's my service domains. So if I have this set to allow, then it allows what I list and blocks everything else, which makes it a restricted service domain, right? These are my restricted browsers, right? Unallowed, they're restricted. So when it says upload to a restricted cloud service domain or access from unallowed browser, well, then that's what it means, and that's where that setting and configuration comes from. So I'm going to add that good old generative AI websites group in here, and I'm going to set it to block because we do not want our time travel exiting our organization, right? So for anywhere else we're auditing, maybe I'll put block with override. But specifically for Gen AI websites, we are blocking, and it will be the most restrictive action that will be enforced there. So that's good. Now, what about supported browsers, right? Well, again, we've got that pesky Gen AI that we want to make sure that we're not sending the time travel information to. But supported browser, maybe we'll do a block with override here too, just to make sure that we have the information, but the folks that have access to Project Obsidian are aware of the potential ramifications of sharing that data outside of the organization. So that's your supported browsers are going to be your browsers that are not listed here, right? So you see I don't have Chrome or Firefox, and of course Edge, it's not going to be listed here. Of course, you can come in, and if there's other browsers that you're seeing in the organization, you need to add those in, you can add those as well. We provide these out of the box for you, some of the more popular browsers to help prevent that egress. Again, this is for DLP, not for firewall or whether we allow this to be installed or something like that. That's performed by your device management folks or your network folks, all right? So back to the policy here. Some of these other activities aren't going to necessarily be relative, so I'm going to put don't restrict because this is going to be for that particular purpose. You can also do app restrictions, but app restrictions are being covered in a future session, so I'm not going to rain on that parade either. And then you can set up your new user notifications, let your users know, hey, you shouldn't be sharing our time travel research with other browsers, third-party activity, things like that.
Question as well. We got a truancy letter, and
I'm getting some
to call.
All right. All right. I hope they get that truancy situation figured out there. All right. So incident reports, as you can see, can also be generated so that you can get emails sent out and you can get alerts created and all that good stuff when the upload to browser occurs. This will also be able to be seen in the Activity Explorer. We can go in the audit log and check that out as well. All right. With that said, let's look at one of my existing policies so that you can see what it is I'm effectively demonstrating here. So I'm going to cancel out of this, confirm, and I'm going to go down to my Copilot policy here. I'm going to edit this policy so we can get a look at the meat and potatoes of it here. All right, so this is my Copilot DLP policy here. We're going to go next, and then we're going to see that, yep, indeed, we are targeting Copilot and Copilot Chat, so that's good. And then I have two rules here, right? One is no medical sits. So basically the way that rule is constructed is I added in a bunch of sits that I recommended not to do, right? If we're doing patient care, we need to ideate, I'm seeing these symptoms and maybe I need to think of a different pathway to treatment or whatever, and I'm blocking all of this, then we're reducing the power of Copilot, right, for that particular person in their role. I did this just to kind of show you this is how it can block. This is kind of a scenario where you can use this. The other rule here is to block a label, right? Confidential all employees, but maybe I should go with Project Obsidian. I think I like the time travel theme. So that's what the other one's doing. So let me show you real quick. So I'm going to go, this is my Copilot, the mod admin Copilot, and I'm going to drop some medical terminology on Copilot and see what it thinks about that. So here we go. I'm just going to drop this in, well, like that, and process. All right, find me some information. Oh no, request can't be completed because your organization has blocked Copilot from responding to some types of content, right? So there you go. It has blocked it. And why did it block it? Because this policy said if you see these medical sensitive information types, block the processing of prompts, right? And that's the only option right now is block. We aren't doing anything else with that. So there you go. And that is how Copilot or how DLP can help you prevent information from being prompted or responded with in Copilot, right? If I had queried Copilot to retrieve me some information from an item labeled, I would get a similar response. I can't provide you that information due to organizational policy. So with that said, back to you, Cotton.
Thanks, Ben. Great demonstration there, and great information in general. Couple things I wanted to point out as well. Ben, since you're in the tent, well, I can talk about it too. If we look at this particular article, I'm going to put it on the screen. I want to mention one other thing just around these DLP policies. Let me make sure I've got that documentation up. There it is. Let me get back on the screen here. So a couple things I just want to point out to kind of add a little more color to what Ben is saying. Get my sharing back. There we go. This is the article we mentioned in chat. We pasted this. I pasted it. I think Kevin posted it too. One thing I want to mention is if you look here, this particular piece. So what Ben was showing you was using Copilot, the application itself. Now remember, that could be Copilot paid. That could be Copilot, the version that comes with your licensing. Either way. But along with that, you also have Copilot in your applications. So if you look at this particular message, what's saying, what Ben just demonstrated in the Copilot app will also work when I try to reason over data in Word, in Excel, in PowerPoint. So let's say I try to create a PowerPoint presentation based on medical terms and conditions, or everything also Ben showed as well can also be done with custom sits. So for instance, if you have an MRM custom sit you built via regex or some sort of patient information. No hospital that I've come in with treats the things the same. So MRM numbers from one hospital to the next are always seem to be different. I don't know why, it just is. But when you create those custom sits to protect those MRM numbers of that patient data, you can use those as part of your DLP policy. So it doesn't have to be the built-in ones. It can also be, the ones we have out there. But to get back to my original point, let's say I try to put a PowerPoint presentation that has, data that's covered by this DLP policy. It will still block me. So it'll block me actually in the app itself in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So it'll say, actually, the thing it won't do, it won't give you that information. This organization has blocked this because of a policy yet. It just throws an error at you. So be aware of that one. It really just goes out and it says, what it says is Copilot can't process or give you high content or high fidelity content for this particular topic in those apps. That's going to change. It's going to say, okay, you know what? It's going to give you that same response back that you see in the Copilot app. It's just not quite there yet. So be aware of that. So not only do we cover Copilot, Copilot Chat, but it also covers Copilot when we're working in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint as well. So be aware of that one. But if you see that error, don't worry. That's expected. It's just a nasty little error that says it's red on the top and you can't actually see it. So be aware of that one. Other things I want to mention really quick before I open it up for everybody is the question that we had earlier about processing of prompts. So somebody asked the question about, what I'd really like to see. And I have heard this from every single customer that I have worked with is that if somebody puts a sit into Copilot, they want it to be able to still being reasoned over, not just block it. So basically having the LLM locally, or the categorize, they call it, don't want to talk too much about that, locally process that request and give you a response, but not reach out to the internet. So don't use web grounding. That is coming. I just literally during the call, I was chatting with one of my product managers on that particular topic, because a lot of people have asked it, and it is in the works. So I'll give you more information as it comes on that one. I have no ETA whatsoever about when that's actually going to happen, but it is coming. And that's a huge win for all of us. Because if you think about the scenario, if we're using medical terms and conditions, if we don't necessarily want to block it, somebody puts in, what are the symptoms of asthma, or how do I deal with high blood pressure, anything like that, we would like to get them a response, but we don't want it to go out to the internet for web grounding. So that's coming. Exciting news about that one. Literally just hot off the press, just found out about it. So we'll hear more about that moving forwards. And if it does happen during the course of this session, we will definitely talk about it. If it comes later, we will do this session. We're going to have another series in the May timeframe, April-May timeframe, right around there. So we'll definitely cover it there as well. So just stay tuned. Make sure you register for all the sessions. I did put that link to register for the sessions in here as well. I'll put it one more time, and I will open it up. Anybody have any questions they want to come off of mute? Throw it out loud. Are there any questions in the chat that we haven't really covered yet? There is the link to register for the rest of the sessions. Somebody asked a question, sorry for the typo. I remember where Copilot experiences that cover all DLP cover all Copilot interactions in DLP. Well, good question. But basically what Ben just covered is basically taking all of our Copilot experiences. So DLP with Copilot covers Copilot Chat, it covers Copilot Paid, and it also covers Copilot app in Word, PowerPoint, Excel. It also covers our Copilot agents, so these type of first-party agents. Question about how does this violate HIPAA? So there are rules out there. Whoever asked that question about, we have the names anonymized, so I can't really see names. The question about that is when a prompt goes out for web grounding. It's not technically covered by HIPAA when it comes to Microsoft terms and conditions. So this is why this DLP policies are so important. We want to make sure those data doesn't go out for web grounding. It does question, does this policy also apply to Copilot Studio agents as well? Yes, it does. It covers Copilot Studio agents. It also covers what we call our first-party agents, so agents that Microsoft creates. Things like Researcher, things like, Researcher and Analyzer are probably the two big ones that you're familiar with if you use Copilot. It also covers those first-party agents. It also covers declarative agents. So declarative agents run in the context of a user. So a user profile. So basically, if I try to prompt, if I have an agent, I'm using Copilot to interact with that agent. It's running as JCotton. JCotton is covered by a DLP policy via the policy that Ben created. It also covers it there. Great question, my friend. We have a hand up in the air.
Yeah, hi. First of all, these sessions are awesome, and I can't wait to go view this recording in half speed so I can keep up with Ben. But I love all the content. So to address that HIPAA thing. So, as a sort of, I guess, the de facto Copilot adoption person at my medical system that is terrified of Copilot because of the risk of leaked data. I'm constantly trying to figure out how safe everything is and how to prove that. So what I've been trying to do is use audit logging, Purview audit logs and eDiscovery to try to find the verbatim web searches. And I know you can do that as a user, right? As you're asking the questions and the prompts, you can look at the sources and you can hover over the little eye and you can see the exact web prompt that's going to Bing. And, everything I can tell, like I can't get, HIPAA related data to leak through to Bing, right? But obviously there's enough of a risk that Microsoft's lawyers aren't willing to stamp that HIPAA compliant on it. So, I guess the long version of what I'm asking is there going to be some way for me to find, or maybe it's there, but even in the JSON, I can't see the literal web search. in Purview or in eDiscovery so that I can, make a case to legal and governance that actually this enterprise data protection really does work and it really is filtering everything out. Is there something that I don't know of that's there? Is there something coming that we can actually run some reports and show that even though it's not technically HIPAA compliant, it looks to us to be safe?
Yeah. So great question, my friend. And currently, there's not a great way to see it. There really isn't. Even in the audit logs, you've looked at the JSON, obviously, it doesn't break it down enough for you. You can see bits and pieces of it, but if you think about how we state what we actually do, we don't send the entire prompt out. So when a prompt goes out, it does use web grounding. It's only going to use a subset of that prompt. It's going to be a couple words here and there. If it's a single word prompt, it'll be one word, basically. But if it's a sentence, something longer, we're just going to send a couple things out to actually the Bing search service and let it process it that way. And there's really not a great place to see that right now. That is a big request, my friend. I have to let you know. And there are efforts around working at it. I don't know a timeline at this point. It's something that's always confused me just a little bit because of the fact what I can see in Activity Explorer, I can see the whole prompt. I can see the response coming in and out. But when I go to the audit logs, I'm not able to see what actually was sent, which the data's there. I know the data's there somewhere because we get it in Activity Explorer. It's just where do I actually see what's coming out? So I hear you, my friend, and I will keep you up to date about anything we hear about that progress-wise.
Yeah, thank you. And that's where we get held up, because if it's true that Copilot's doing this, and it really seems like it is, if it's really 100% true, then it would be HIPAA compliant. So that's why there's like this distrust that then it must not really be true, right? Because something could leak or whatever. So
the HIPAA compliance thing's weird, honestly, because if you think about it, it's all covered. It's all about the BAA, right? It's a business associate agreement that Microsoft has. And the thing is that Bing just has a separate one. So as we tie into the Bing search service, when we use web grounding, we're then actually transferred over to the Bing BAA, which is the part that's not HIPAA compliant at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Now, there are some other advances coming up. You may have read about them. We announced some of them at Ignite. We're going to be doing local only processing. So you're going to have the ability to basically set up things so it only uses certain local processing and not reach out to the Bing web service. I can send some information on that if you're not aware of it in my email today. There's also going to be curated web search. So you're going to be able to say, okay, if it does go out to the Bing search service, we're going to say, okay, you can go to National Institute. I'm talking healthcare right now, but plug your industry and what type of data you may want to go. But so, for instance, I can do this curated web searching that's going to say, okay, just go out to the National Institute of Health, just go out to the CDC, just go out to X, Y, and Z. So you can define where the web grounding is going to go as part of your tenant. So that's also coming. I'll include that in the email that I have today, some of the information we have about that. No ETA quite yet on either of them. Microsoft has said it's going to be in H2, and H2 for us at Microsoft means basically between now and June, July, basically. So more about that, and we'll keep you up to date as new things are coming out. Like I said, we have this session going on till mid-February, then the next section is going to start again in mid-May. Early May, probably. So if there's anything new that comes up, we'll talk about them there too. Great questions. Another question, can you clarify the prerequisites for endpoint DLP? Ben, you want to talk about that one really quick?
The prerequisites clarification?
Just the prereqs for endpoint.
Yeah. So basically, endpoint DLP, you want to make sure that your devices are onboarded for Purview client. Current endpoint DLP support is for Windows and Mac. Also, Windows Server can be enabled within endpoint DLP settings. Essentially, within the settings area for device onboarding, there's multiple ways to onboard devices. But like I said, MDE, getting that out there with the Purview client will be the most suitable way through Intune or whatever your device management is. There is also VDI support as well for both persistent and non-persistent environments.
Mm-hmm. Another question in here. I have the Purview extension on my browser. I don't see detection for prompts responsive when using AI browser extensions. Am I missing something? I guess the question back for that one is, which type of AI are you using? Copilot natively, you're going to see that relatively straightforward. If you want to see things like ChatGPT, the rest of them, then we want to think about having that Purview extension and getting those devices onboarded into Purview as well. So the onboarding process. that should fix that one up. When Copilot, where is that question? Sorry, there's a longer question. When Copilot is grounding in web knowledge, does it actually submit any websites using the data from the prompt? I assume endpoint text files and prompts are fully processed, but not created requests in third party. But if it goes to the web search system, I see, yeah, that's not great. So how we process those, Dan, is, I kind of mentioned it before, is when we put a prompt in, the Copilot LLM model in the background first looks at that prompt and decides where does that data need to go. If it's there locally, it's going to use the Graph API to look at it, and of course, it's not going to go out to the web search. And again, depends on the prompt too, right? So if I ask it about my email, or if I ask it about an internal HR policy at my organization, of course, that's not going to go out to the internet. If it does find out that it needs to go out to the internet, it's then going to send a subset of that prompt. So for instance, if I put in the prompt, what is the price of tea in England for 2025? Or give me the information about patient XYZ based upon XY or whatever. It's only going to put in a couple words here and there. We can't guarantee exactly what words it's going to use, but that's really where the problem comes in. We don't send the full prompt out. We also anonymize the prompt so it doesn't know who it's coming from. It doesn't know you. It doesn't know your organization. So all of that is de-identified at that point. So we're sending a very limited amount of information out to the Bing search service, and then the LLM processes in the background. So yes, some things go out. It's not very much. The question, as somebody mentioned before, what we're really trying to get at here is, A, this is what DLP is designed for, us to help prevent that. And then can we actually see that in data somewhere? I know the data is in the log somewhere. We'll keep working on that one. If we can find a great place to show it, we will share it out here. Awesome questions, everybody. Any other questions from the group? Feel free to come off of mute, put your hand in the air, throw it in the chats. Okay. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to throw a quick survey in here for everybody. I had it up. What did I do with it? There we go. Here's a quick survey. I'll send this out via email too, but please give us your feedback. Everybody should be able to fill that one out. It's only 4 or 5 questions, just simple stuff, how we do, what would you like to see more, what we can do better at. So please fill that out. Really, it's really important to us. Honestly, I can't say much about it. It really helps guide these sessions. It helps make sure that myself, Ben, Kevin, all the rest of our presenters are on track. So please fill that out because these sessions are going to continue. This isn't a one and done and fair. I'm probably going to keep doing these ad nauseum. So we got the sessions coming up, and just to bring that slide up one more time to remind everybody, and don't forget that the registration link is also right there now as well. So please register for everything and anything. I'll put that in one more time. And then I'll pull this up one more time as well. This is the actual site that you register at. It also lists everything out about what we're doing. So you can see here, this was today's session around DLP. And this is how you do it. Just click on the register here button. Oopsie, I didn't mean to do that, but yeah, you just register. So next week, we've got Defender Cloud Apps. Great session. Insider Risk coming up, network protection, and then our agent series as well. So please, please, please register for all the sessions that you can. Please take that quick little survey, and I will get this set out as soon as I can. When it comes to the recordings from today, last week's recording, my apologies on that as well. I did come down with the flu over the weekend, and I just now am getting back into normal life. Thank you, Tamiflu. So I'll send out the recordings. I'll send out the decks from both. They're going to come in as PDFs. And then I'll have the relevant links, some of the things we talked about here as well. So that's all going to come into your email very soon. Thank you all so much. I know time is one thing you can never get back. So thank you for spending an hour with us. See, I'm still not exactly well. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for the rest of Microsoft people on the call here. Please keep coming back, guys. Keep giving us that feedback. A lot of great content coming up. So looking forward to see everybody next week. Everybody be safe this weekend. I know there's a lot of bad weather out there, so be careful out there. Stay inside, stay off the roads as much as humanly possible. Have a great rest of the day. Have a great rest of the weekend. Thank you all so much. And thank you, Ben. Great job, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Y'all have a good one.